Hi there, welcome to Keep Britain Sewing, and thank you for purchasing the summer shirt pattern. Now this shirt is the same one that I made on Sewing Bee for holiday week, and in fact it's this one here as well. So I get a lot of use out of this sewing pattern, and I hope you do too. Now thank you for downloading it, and inside obviously you have your pattern, and here you have your pattern instructions and a Keep Britain sewing guide. Now in here you'll find lots of useful information and tips like how to sew darts, how to insert a concealed zip. So lots of useful information in there. So keep that by your sewing machine. So let's get on and make the summer shirt. So we start with our front pieces here. This is piece number 1. So hopefully you've marked on your pocket placement on the left front piece. So let me move this out of the way, and I'm going to put the interfacing on first. Now it goes on both front pieces. Let me grab this one first. Now I made it just under 3 centimeters, and I'm placing it in between the fold line there, the edge and the first fold line. So let me just press that in place. So that piece of interfacing is on there. It's slightly longer because I'm doing a small, so I'm just going to snip that bit off there. So we do our first fold. Now I don't know if you can see my markings here, but there are my markings where I'm going to fold. So the first one is here. So it's folded over by about 3 centimeters. So if you don't want to mark your fabric, you can always just measure it 3 centimeters. Fold that down again. Keep folding that all the way down, and then once more fold it over. And I've made quite a few of these shirts because it's my favourite pattern really. So that's your front piece, or centre front, folded over twice, and that should measure 3 centimeters. I'll do the other one. Put that one up there. So bring this one across, and where are we doing it? We're doing it this side. So first we need to put the interfacing on. So line that up between the raw edge and the first line, and just press that down. Okay. I'm just going to snip that little bit of overhang of the interfacing off. Don't need that. Then we fold over on that fold line. It should be 3 centimeters. That's 3 centimeters. Let's see. Yep, that's good. Fold over once more. Okay, there we go. Both our centre fronts are folded over twice. So now we need to secure that. So we want to do a line of stitching about 3 millimeters from that folded edge on the inside there. So all the way along. Place that in there. So I want to do about 3 millimeters. So quite close to that edge. So put your needle down. edge. Remember to keep your fabric nice and flat. Go all the way down there. So just give that a quick press. That's your centre fronts done. Now you want to take your left side of your front piece, and if you haven't already, mark on where your pocket is going. So the top of my pocket I've marked here, these two white dots that you probably can't see. Okay, so I've got my pocket piece here. Let me move that out of the way, and on here we need to fold around all the way around 1 centimetre. Now, it can get a little bit tricky on the curved edges. Try not to burn yourself. So I'm going to go down this side as well, 1 centimetre. I mean, if you want to do a square pocket, do a square pocket. If you can do a round edge pocket, do a rounded edge pocket. And then the top edge down 1 centimetre as well. Now I'm just using my pattern piece as a guide, so I can fold it around that corner. And you might want to cut it out onto cardboard just to get a nice curved edge there. Try not to burn yourself. Quite a nice curve there. We want to fold the top of the pocket down on that fold line that's on the pattern piece that you've marked off. Now you just want to pin this top pocket piece in place. Then you just want to do a line of stitching along that folded edge, about 3 millimeters from the edge. So that's your pocket piece ready to put onto your front piece of your shirt. Bring my front piece back in and line the top of the pocket up to where those markings are. Pin that in place. Then once you've pinned that in place, you want to do a line of stitching all the way around that edge, apart from the top, of course. So now we come on to the back, and you need pattern piece number 2. So hopefully you've copied off your markings here onto the right side. So what we're doing, let me line it up, there we are. So we have a fold line here, and we're moving this bit of fabric over to the center, and the same on the other side. So we create a kind of pleat here. So let me move that out of the way. So we grab it from this line here and take that to the center. Just pin that in place. And then on the other side do the same. So you want to grab the outer line, fold it on that middle line and place it at the center so that these meet up here. So just pin that in place. Now you just want to do a line of stitching along here within the 1 centimetre seam allowance, just to hold all that in place. Once you've just sewn that in place, oops, that is your back pleat on the back piece all done. And now we move on to the yoke. Now we move on to sewing on the yoke. So you will need pattern piece 4 here. So let me just unpin this bit. Now of course you've marked off your markings on your yoke piece. There's a triangle in the middle, which is your center back, which is where you'll line your collar up later. So make sure you mark that marking off. Got 2 yoke pieces. So the first yoke piece you want to place right side up. You then also need to place your front pieces also right side up. So here, let me place that there. Let me do it sideways, might be easier. So we place that right side up, and the other front piece right side up. So that's 1 yoke piece facing up and your 2 front pieces facing up, and then the final yoke piece you place faced down on top of that. So we just need to pin all 3 layers in place. Okay, so now we do a line of stitching along this shoulder seam here and along here. 1 centimetre seam allowance is included in the pattern, so you don't have to worry about adding a seam allowance to the pattern. So that's your yoke pieces attached to your front. So just press your seam up towards the back. I should really have my pressing mat down here, but oops. Press that towards the back. Oop. And then just give it a quick press on the front. So with these yoke pieces, one of the yokes is going to be on the outside and one of them is going to be on the inside. So this is your outside one, if you put everything right side together, and then of course you've got your inside one there. So this one here, the one that you can see when you put it everything the right way round, is the one you're going to see on the outside. So move the one that's on the inside out the way, and then grab your back piece and then pin that onto your yoke. So your pleats are here in the middle, and you want to pin that onto your yoke right sides together. And then do a line of stitching joining that yoke piece to the back piece along there. So just press that seam up. Where are we? There we go. Press that seam up. And then just give it a press on the other side. So now lay your shirt out so it's all faced up. So the right side is facing up. Now you want to roll, this is the fun bit, roll your front pieces into the middle. Everything apart from the yoke gets rolled into the middle. So that gets rolled up to that, and the back, roll that up. So now you have your back and your front rolled up into the center. You have this yoke here, and that comes over all of those layers, and you need to pin it to the seam of the other yoke. Now there's a lot of material in between this, so just ease that, make sure your layers are out the way, pin that all the way along. So now we need to sew those layers together. So just trying to keep the shirt front and backs out the way. What may help if you just go over the same line of stitching that you have there. So if you don't want to use it as a shirt anymore, you can always use it as a neck pillow. But let's see if this has worked. Now if you pull the front and back pieces through that hole in the middle, then it should hopefully be attached correctly. I always get nervous when I do this. Even though I've made the shirt loads of times, I always worry that I put it in the wrong way. You know, you can become complacent and do it wrong. But it's worked. So there you go. So you have it's all creased up now, but we'll give it a good press later. But you have your yoke pieces on your front and back pieces. So I'm just going to give that a press. Like I said, it's all creased up now. And then we're going to do some top stitching. So give your shoulder seam a press, and then your yoke seam here. So what we need to do now is a line of top stitching along the bottom of the yoke here, and some top stitching along the shoulder seam here. We're also preparing ourselves for the collar. We want to do a stay stitch, so line of stitching close to the edge here around the collar edge, just to ensure that the neckline doesn't stretch when we sew the collar on. So now we come on to the collar. This is pattern piece number 5. So you have 2 pieces. One of them is interfaced, the other one isn't. So I have my interfacing here. I haven't applied it yet. I'll do that in a minute. So you have your 2 collar pieces like that. One thing to note, there is a marking on here to put on at the center bottom of the collar here, so you need to just place a mark there so you know where to place it when you come to fitting it on your shirt. So that's your center of your collar. Let me put my interfacing onto one of my pieces. So let me line that up there. Oh, let me get my pressing mat. I have been naughty not using it. So let me apply the interfacing to the collar piece. Now you don't have to use interfacing. You can just leave it as it is. You don't need to have a stiff collar. You just have a more casual collar. So it's entirely up to you if you want to use interfacing or not. Okay, so that's interfaced. We need to press up about 1 centimetre on that bottom edge of the interfaced collar. So it's about 1 centimetre. Do this all the way around the bottom edge and up to that point there. Okay, so that's pressed up 1 centimetre on that bottom interfaced collar. Okay, so now take your uninterfaced collar and place your interfaced collar on top of there and pin all of that in place around the two sides and the top. And then you need to do a line of stitching from where you've placed that pressed edge, where that fold is there, 1 centimetre seam allowance again, all the way along that short edge to the corner, and then along the long edge to this other short edge and down to the pressed edge there. So 1 centimetre. So there, put my needle down and then do a back stitch and then go down to this corner here, and when I'm about 1 centimetre from this edge, so about here, I'm going to lift my foot up, turn that collar around and place my foot down again. Take that pin out and then continue going around, making sure there's a 1 centimetre seam allowance. And then when we come up to this corner here, get that one out of the way, again we come up to about 1 centimetre from this edge, put the needle down, foot up, spin it around, and then continue down that short edge there until you get to the fold of your interfaced collar. And just do a back stitch, and there we go. Okay, and now we just need to clip the corners here and the seam allowance. So clip the corners and then trim your seam allowance so you're a couple of millimeters away from the stitching that you've just done, because you don't want too much bulk when you come to turn the collar out. Trim that. Okay, move that out of the way. And now just turn your collar to the right side out. Okay, and now you might need to find maybe a knitting needle or a chopstick. Well, I've got a sewing gauge, and you can use the point here to point out your collars, push out your collars here. So you want nice sharp points there. and this little tool helps. So then just press your collar once you've turned it out. Give that a good press. So that is your collar. So now we just need to top stitch along the short side, along this long edge, and down that short side. So we need to start just where we pressed that edge earlier, a couple of millimeters from the edge. Now we come to attaching the collar. So you want to match your marking at the center of the collar that we just done to the marking of the center back on here. Pin that in place. So this is the uninterfaced collar piece I'm pinning together. Then I pin the end of my collar to the end of the front piece here. So pin that in place. And then we just need to ease the rest of that collar in to the neckline. So that's attached there. So you just need to do a line of stitching attaching the collar to your neckline from one end to the other. So now that's your collar attached. On the inside, you just need to pin that fold over that seam allowance there and pin in place. Keep going around. Okay, so now we're going to do a line of top stitching along the outside. We'll catch this folded edge, and therefore you won't have any raw edges or anything. So that's your line of top stitching done now. Just clip that there, and hopefully that's caught on the inside there. That's all good. And now we come on to doing the side seams. So now we come to the side seams. So we need to place sides of the front and the back, right sides together, and pin. And then we do the other side as well. And just do a line of stitching along that side seam there. And now that you've sewn your side seams, you need to press them open. So let's press the seams open. And then once we've pressed these open, we move onto the sleeves. So now we come onto the sleeve, and this is your pattern piece number 3. So hopefully you've cut 2 of these. So let me just unpin this one. So hopefully you've also transferred your markings onto your material. So there is a notch on the side here that you need to copy off, and if you want to, you can copy the fold lines across, but if not, then they measure 1 centimeter and then 2 centimeters That's your sleeve pieces. Make sure you copied off your notches here. So I'm just going to mark, because I haven't cut mine out, I'm just going to mark with a piece of chalk here where the notches are. And then the fold line, well, first we're going to fold up 1 centimetre and then 2 centimetres. So I'll take my first pattern piece, place it face down. We want to fold that up 1 centimetre. About there. And then up 2 centimetres. So where the indentation of that sleeve is there, where that indent is, just want to fold it up at that point, and that should be 2 centimetres. Press all the way down. So just pin that in place. Then do the same on the other one. Then on both pieces we want to do a line of stitching along that folded edge there. That's your sleeves all hemmed. Just give that a little bit of a press, because I like to press everything. Good habit to get into. And then now we need to fold the sleeve right sides together. So we join up this short edge here. So just pin that in place. Make sure these are lined up correctly here, and do the same on the other sleeve. And then sew a line of stitching down that short side. Once your short edge is sewn together, you just want to press that open. And then turn that over. And press. Do the same on the other sleeve. So there's your 2 sleeves ready to be fitted into your shirt. So now we come on to inserting our sleeves into our shirt. So we need to turn the sleeves right side out like that, and the shirt inside out. And we want to insert the sleeve into that armhole. We want to match up the sleeve seam with the side seam there. Put a couple of pins in there. And then we want to match our notches that we transferred onto our material, and just pin that sleeve in all the way around. Okay, So once that's pinned in place, do the other one, and then we'll do a line stitching all the way around that armhole. So it might help if you take the arm off your machine here, and then you can slide your sleeve into there. Put the needle down. I'm going to start at the side seam and go around. So that's your sleeves put in. Now you just want to press these sleeves, and the best way to do this, if you have a tailor's ham, ooh, let me grab mine, this one here, this is great for doing things on a curve like a sleeve. So if you turn the sleeve inside out, place your ham inside and just press that sleeve, press all the way around that armhole, which will get a nice clean seam. Just turn the sleeve out, so press it on this side as well. And there we have it. That's your sleeves. Let me move that out of the way. That's your sleeves put in. Hopefully it wasn't too traumatic. Let me see how the sleeves, there we are. There's the sleeves put in, and now we'll move on to the hem. Right, so now we move on to the hem. So for the hem, you need to fold that up by 1 centimetre, and then we'll fold it up 2 centimetres. So let me do 1 centimetre first. Check that all the way along. And then all the way along the back piece. Hopefully this is straight. Let me check. 1 centimetre. Could be a little bit more there. One centimetre. And then we need to fold up another 2 centimetres. So that's 2 centimetres there. Bring that side down a little bit. Go all the way along this back piece. Oop. So now that's pressed, just pin that in place. So now we're all pinned in place. We want to do a line of stitching along that folded edge, about 3 millimeters from the edge. And that's your hem done. So we just need to give that bit of a press there, and then we'll move on to buttons and buttonholes. Right, so now we move on to the buttons and buttonholes. This is the final bit. So you need to transfer your markings from your pattern. So the capital I's are your buttonholes and the cross is where your buttons are placed. So I'm going to mark the buttonholes first. Now this is on the left side of your shirt, unless you want to put the buttonholes on the right and your buttons on the left. It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to place the mark here. I'm just going to transfer mark there and I. So there are my marks for my buttonholes. Now most machines come with a buttonhole foot like this, and it makes buttons easier, so I'm going to use these clear plastic buttons. So you place your button at the back and close that up, and then you attach that to your machine, and it measures out the buttonhole to the size of your button. Very clever. Let me just attach this buttonhole foot to my machine. Now I normally, and it is always a good idea to test your machine, your buttonhole foot on a bit of scrap fabric first. Make sure the buttonholes are look good and they are secure. But I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to go for it because I'm daring today. So I'm just going to thread that bit of thread through there, and need to pull this bit down on the, where is it, there, and then set my machine to button, and then we're ready to do the first one. So I'm going to bring my fabric around here, it's easier. I'm going to line it up to that first marking. So I've done the end of the eye, so I've done a parallel and a horizontal line. So where they meet, I'm going to put my needle down at that point. And of course, if you want further information about how to sew buttonholes, don't forget to refer to your Keep Britain sewing guide. There's a section there on how to sew buttonholes. So line up your machine on your marking, and I think that's it there. Make sure your fabric's all lined up and straight, and then I'm just going to press go and see what happens. And I'm not pulling on the fabric, I'm just guiding it through. That's the first one. Whew. That's good. That one's looking good. And now we move on to the other 5. So now our buttonholes are in. Let's just tidy up those threads a little bit, cut them off. Now, not much of a buttonhole at the moment, are they? Because there's no hole in the buttonhole. So I'll show you how to do them. For that you will need a pin and a seam ripper. So place your pin at the end of your buttonhole. This is to prevent you from ripping the whole shirt as you open up this buttonhole with your seam ripper. So just very gently push your seam ripper through that buttonhole and open up the buttonhole just by pushing it gently, not too hard, but until you meet the end where the pin is. Do that for all your buttonholes. To place a pin at the end and then open them up. and I have gone through the buttonhole before without putting the pin in, so it's a really good idea to put this pin here, because it does stop you making a much bigger buttonhole than what you wanted. Now we come on to the buttons. So now you can either use the markings that are on the pattern and line them up like you did with the buttonholes. The cross is the buttons, or you can bring your buttonhole side over on top of where your buttons are going to go, and then you can place a mark, and maybe it's more accurate because you know where they're positioned then. So I'm going to place a mark where I want my buttons. So I'm just going to make sure you line it up at the bottom edge here and mark where your button is going to be. So place a mark there. This chalk isn't actually very good. Now that you've marked where your buttons are going to go, it's time to put your buttons on. Now you can do the traditional way of sewing it on by hand, or I like to use my machine. Now I'm not sure if all machines do this, but my machine does. So I have a button foot which looks a bit like this. So I put that in my machine and it holds the button, and then you do a zigzag stitch and it stitches your button on. Perfect. I love this. So I'm going to take this foot off here, move that one back up. Now what you do need to do, if you can, you need to disable the feed dogs, which I have a little button here. Where is it? There it is. So that stop the fabric moving through your machine. And then I'll put my button foot on there, and I need to select zigzag. So there. Now bring my shirt over here and then line up where my button is going to go, which I can just make out my mark, and it's here. So let me grab a button, and I want to place that onto that mark, then under the button foot, and just gently put your foot down. Now it's on zigzag, so it should move from one side to the other. Now whether I've got the distance correct between the two sides, I'm just going to check. So I'm just going to put my hand, use my hand lever, put the needle down one side, then it moves to the other side, and I'm going to see if it goes down the other side, and it does. If it doesn't, I just have to make a slight adjustment on the width of my stitch there, but it seems to be fine. So I'm going to press play or go, and it sews my button in. I love it. And then move on to the next one. It saves so much time because I hate sewing buttons. Where's the other one? There we go. Move that one into there. When I first got this machine and I saw it could do this, it's like magic. Now let's see if I've aligned these buttons and buttonholes up correctly. Well, the button's going through. Yep, that looks good. That looks good. Of course you need to give it a final press, but I'm just going to see how this all comes together. Now, I don't think it needs one at the top, but if you want to put one at the top you can. Fold the collar down a bit. So there you go, there's your summer shirt, all ready for your holidays, all ready for a cocktail. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for purchasing the pattern. Hope you enjoy it. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you like it, then please like it and share and tell your friends. Thank you, and until next time, bye.